How do we become the kind of people who can live with steadiness, courage, and love, especially in complex times? I want to reflect with you on 5 of the most important things I've learned over the years about faith, attachment, and the inner life, not as a to-do list, but as wisdom for us to live into. Mature faith doesn't eliminate complexity, it learns how to hold it. Wholeness isn't about never feeling afraid, it's about knowing where to return when fear inevitably shows up. Hey everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of The Best of You. If you're new here, I'm so glad you found us. This is a space for anyone who's longing for a wiser way of being human, a place where we honor the complexity of our real lives, we ground ourselves in modern science and in ancient wisdom, and where we're always asking a deeper question: what actually helps us live wisely from the inside out? January is such a charged month. Everywhere you turn, there's a sense that it's time to reset, to optimize, to finally become the version of yourself you were meant to be. New goals, new habits, new resolve. Meanwhile, there's so much going on in the world around us. And if you're honest, you may be starting this year already feeling tired or behind. Tired of self-improvement, tired of trying to fix things, maybe tired of carrying that sense that you just can't catch up. Or maybe you feel a different kind of weariness, not with goals, but with spiritual answers that sound okay on the surface, but don't actually meet you in your lived experience. You believe, you care for others, your faith is real, and still your nervous system is on edge. Your inner life feels crowded or disconnected. Your prayers sometimes feel more like effort than rest. Underneath all of this, I hear a hunger in so many conversations. How do I live more fruitfully from the inside out? How do I become steady, more anchored, not by trying harder, but by becoming more rooted? That's the question I want to sit with today. This episode isn't about advice. It's not about how we fix ourselves. It's not about setting the right intentions for the new year. It's about how we orient our inner lives. Because before we ask what we're doing this new year, we need to ask where we're returning to, especially when things get hard. What steadies you under stress? What do you reach for when you feel afraid, overwhelmed, or unseen? Where does your soul instinctively go? Those quiet returns, more than our stated beliefs, are what shape us over time. So today I want to slow things down. I want to reflect with you on 5 of the most important things I've learned over the years about faith, attachment, and the inner life, not as a to-do list, but as wisdom for us to live into. If you're listening while walking, driving, or making coffee, I hope you just let these words wash over you. There's nothing to take notes on today, nothing to try to get right. Just notice what resonates. Notice what softens inside. Notice what feels like an exhale. Because formation doesn't happen through pressure, it happens through presence. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to reintroduce myself, especially if you're new here, or maybe you've been listening for a while and just want to know more about my background, why I do this. I'm a therapist, but more technically, I'm a psychologist of religion. And what that means is that I study the psychology of how we are formed, not just emotionally and mentally, but spiritually. I'm interested in how our inner lives take shape over time, how our early relationships shape the way we experience ourselves, others, and God, and how faith lives not just in what we say we believe, but in how safe and secure we feel when life gets hard. My work lives at the intersection of 3 things: attachment, how we learn closeness and safety and trust; the inner life, the parts of us that hold fear, longing, wisdom, and protection; and faith, not as performance, but as relationship and meaning making. I'm less interested in behavior modification and much more interested in soul formation, how the soul forms in partnership with God's Spirit, accompanied always by good science, everything that science has to teach us. Because here's the thing, behavior change comes and goes. You can change something quickly only to have it come back. Formation happens slowly, quietly beneath the surface. And over the years, I've noticed that many people bounce between a few familiar options when they're struggling. None of these are bad, but sometimes we turn to therapy that focuses primarily on symptom management. How do I get rid of the anxiety? How do I find a script, right, to set boundaries in this relationship? Sometimes it's devotional content that inspires us, but doesn't always help us integrate what we're feeling or the inspiration with our bodies and our relationships and our real lives. And sometimes we turn to willpower. We try harder. We try to be more disciplined. We try to fix ourselves through sheer determination. Each of those has a place. I believe firmly in all of them on some level, don't get me wrong, but none of them on their own really get at this deeper question. How do we become the kind of people who can live with steadiness, courage, and love, especially in complex times? How do we find that inner resilience? That's the space I want to talk about today. I think of it as a third way, an integrated way. It's not fixing, it's not bypassing, it's not white-knuckling growth. It's a wiser way of becoming even more human. This means we pay attention to the nervous system, our attachment patterns, to the inner parts of us that learned how to survive long before we had words for faith or relationship or psychology or theology, right? These inner movements of our souls, your thoughts, your emotions, the movements of your nervous system, your inner world. If you've ever wondered what's actually in your tap water, you're not alone. Water can look totally fine and still contain contaminants you don't want to be drinking. And unfortunately, a lot of standard pitcher filters don't remove many of them. That's why I use AquaTrue every day. It's a countertop water purifier with a 4-stage reverse osmosis system designed to remove dozens of contaminants, including lead, chlorine, PFAs, forever chemicals, and microplastics. For clean, great-tasting water you can trust. No plumbing, no installation. I use it for my drinking water, my hot tea, and my humidifier, and even in cooking. AquaTrue has been featured in Business Insider and Popular Science, and Good Housekeeping named it Best Countertop Water Filter. Go to aquatrue.com now for 20% off your purifier using promo code BESTOFYOU. AquaTrue even comes with a 30-day best-tasting water guarantee. That's AquaTrue, AQUATRU.com, promo code BESTOFYOU. One of the things I've learned is that people don't usually struggle because we don't care enough, believe enough, or try hard enough. We struggle because we haven't been taught how to return, how to come back again and again to safety, to love, to God when fear takes over. And that's where faith, attachment, and the inner life meet. So as we move into the heart of this episode, I want you to hear me say this. I'm not here to tell you what you should be doing this new year. I'm here to help you understand what I believe is already forming in you and how to gently, compassionately reorient your inner life toward what heals. I want to share the 5 things I've learned slowly, imperfectly, through my own life, through my work, through my own inner journey. These aren't truths to agree or debate or disagree on. There's a place for that. But this work is about noticing reality. Because once you notice what's actually forming you, real change becomes possible. Over the years, there's one pattern I've seen again and again, both in my work and in my own life. Most people aren't struggling because we don't know what's right? We don't have enough head knowledge. Most of us are exhausted because knowing hasn't changed how we orient on the inside. So I want to share 5 things I've learned about faith, attachment, and the inner life. And the first one may sound deceptively simple. Number 1, we are formed more by what we return to than by what we believe. Most of us assume that our beliefs are what shape us, and there's some truth in that. Our thoughts and beliefs do matter. But when I really started to pay attention to myself and to what I saw happening in others, I realized there's so often a disconnect between our heads and our hearts, between what we think or believe to be true and how we actually live. Something else was doing the heavier lifting. What actually forms us is what we return to when we're under stress. Think about it for a second. When you feel overwhelmed, where does your mind go? What's your first instinct? Or when you feel afraid, what old behaviors creep in? When something goes wrong, what voices do you listen to? For many of us, the return is fear, or urgency or self-criticism or striving. I need to do better, be better, try harder. And here's the thing, your nervous system doesn't distinguish between what you believe in theory and what you practice in moments of threat. So even if you believe God is loving, in that moment of stress, if you return again and again to pressure, criticism, performance, or panic, those returns are what are becoming your functional theology. Faith, I've learned, isn't just belief. It's a pattern of return. We are forming ourselves every single day. So the question for our purposes here isn't what do you believe? It's where do you go when things get hard? That realization alone can change everything. Number 2, our deepest spiritual struggles are often rooted in attachment wounds, not failures of faith. For years, I watched people label their spiritual pain in harsh ways. I did it to myself. We call it rebellion. We call it weakness. We call it doubt or fear that needs correcting. But when we slow down, when we listen more carefully, what emerges isn't defiance, it's longing. Longing for safety, for closeness, for rest. When someone says, God feels distant, or I feel like I'm disappointing God, or I feel so alone, that's not primarily a faith problem. It's usually a connection problem. Attachment shapes how we experience love, human love, and God's love. If closeness once felt fragile, if love once felt conditional, if attention had to be earned, those patterns don't just disappear over time, over the process of becoming an adult, right? They follow us deeply within our souls, which means healing doesn't come from trying harder to believe the right things or using willpower to muscle through. Healing comes through restored connection, through restored attachment, learning slowly what it feels like to be met in our pain and in our fear rather than managed. I've been trying to cook at home more this new year, and one thing that's genuinely made it easier is Caraway. I love knowing their cookware is designed with a third-party tested, non-toxic ceramic coating made without forever chemicals. Clean meals deserve clean kitchenware, and that peace of mind changes how I feel when I'm making simple, everyday meals. And practically speaking, Caraway just cooks beautifully. The ceramic surface is naturally slick, so I use less oil, and things release easily, especially eggs. Cleanup is faster, which means less time at the sink scrubbing and more time actually enjoying my evening. Caraway's cookware set is a favorite for a reason. It can save you up to $190 versus buying the items individually. Plus, if you visit carawayhome.com/bestofyou, you can take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/bestofyou or use code BESTOFYOU at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic kitchenware made modern. And this brings me to something many people resist at first. Number 3, your inner world isn't a problem to solve. It's a sacred place to tend. Your inner world, the emotions, reactions, protectors, and the longings inside you, these aren't obstacles to your growth. This is the very place where formation happens. So many people treat their inner life like a house with rooms they don't want to enter. There's rooms labeled anger, envy, grief, fear, need. These are blocked off and locked up tight, right? We don't want to look into them. But nothing inside you is there by accident. Every reaction carries information. Every protective pattern once served a purpose. Every longing points towards something sacred or beautiful. When we approach these rooms of the soul with curiosity rather than judgment, something incredible happens. What once felt like chaos becomes an opportunity for communication and clarity. What once felt like shame becomes an invitation. The goal isn't to eliminate these rooms in your soul. You might think of them as parts of yourself. It's to connect to these places with a listening posture, to seek understanding with compassion so they no longer have to shout so loud. This kind of soul tending isn't self-absorption, it's stewardship. Because tending our inner life is one of the most important spiritual acts we can practice. Number 4, God heals us not primarily through correction, but through presence. One of the most transformative shifts I've experienced and witnessed in others is this. Lasting change doesn't happen when people finally get the logic right. It happens when they are met. Could be through a safe person you finally learn to trust, a mentor, a friend, a pastor, a therapist. It could be an encounter with God. Presence regulates the nervous system. Presence restores trust. Presence rewires fear. Think about it. When you're overwhelmed, what actually helps you? Is it being told to calm down? You get the logic of that. Or is it being met by someone who stays with you? Spiritual growth accelerates when God is experienced not as a constant evaluator, but as a secure base, someone you can return to, someone who holds you steady while you find your footing again. Correction, of course, has its place, but presence is what makes correction bearable and healing possible. And finally, this may be the most important thing I've learned. Number 5, wholeness, not perfection, is the goal of a mature spiritual life. Mature faith doesn't eliminate complexity, it learns how to hold it. Wholeness isn't about never feeling afraid, it's about knowing where to return when fear inevitably shows up. A whole person will feel anxiety and still choose love. They'll set boundaries with others without losing compassion. They'll live with questions without losing strong, solid ground. This is what it means to live from a secure inner center, not a life without struggle, but a life anchored enough to move through struggle with integrity. This kind of soul knows deep down where home is. And that kind of life isn't achieved through fixing yourself. It's formed through faithful returns each and every day. So as we move into this new year, I want to offer a different way of orienting ourselves, not a set of goals, but a way of walking together. If you've resonated with anything in this episode, it's probably because something in you already knows that growth doesn't happen through pressure. It happens through practice, small returns, repeated over time. That's the spirit of what we're building here. This year, we'll be exploring themes like inner formation, how change actually takes root beneath the surface, secure attachment, learning what safety and love and trust feel like in real time. We'll talk about boundaries, not as walls, but as sacred ground from which to thrive, and how to live wisely and faithfully in a complicated, often anxious world. And that's why I'm so excited about this new rhythm we're already practicing together, the daily podcast that we just started this year. It's about daily practice, daily returns, short reflections anchored in scripture, a pause to anchor us each day. This isn't a place to go deep into self-help, but to help us return to what steadies us each day again and again. And then the Thursday episodes like this one are where we go deeper. We slow down and we explore one idea more fully. We connect the dots between psychology, faith, and lived experience. We'll have experts come on in their respective fields to help guide us through different processes of healing and growth and transformation. These episodes are meant to be companions, not content to keep up with, but places to come back to, because this isn't a program to complete. This isn't a challenge to conquer, right? This is a way of how we can live and grow together. So as this year begins, I hope you'll release the urgency to reinvent yourself, to improve, and to instead notice where you're already forming, where you're already returning. What is already steadying you? What has already started to deplete you? And what always, without fail, invites you home, back to safety, back to love, back to security deep within? That awareness alone is a powerful place to start. As we close, I want to leave you with something simple. The reality is formation takes time. Love grows slowly. And the parts of you that learn to survive don't need to be rushed into healing. It's actually counterproductive. And we have this quote in Boundaries for Your Soul that I love, especially when I'm talking to people who are in a hurry. It's like, I want to feel better. I want to get there faster. And the reality is this process, this way that we've been talking about, this is a slower way to get to where you want to be faster, right? You're not working against yourself. You're working with yourself when you slow down enough to listen to your inner life. If all you do in the coming weeks is begin to notice where you return when you're stressed, what steadies you when you feel afraid, what voice you trust when you feel unsure, whether it's inside of you or from someone else, that's more than enough. You don't need to fix yourself before you're worthy of rest. And you don't need to resolve every question before you're allowed to take a breath. Just stay curious. Stay attuned to the movements within your soul. And when things feel heavy, as they will, take a deep breath and let God's presence do the quiet work it already knows how to do. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I can't wait to walk through this year together. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of The Best of You. It would mean so much if you take a moment to subscribe. You can go to Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to or watch podcasts and click the plus or follow button. That'll ensure you don't miss an episode, and it helps get the word out to others. While you're there, I'd love it if you leave a 5-star review. And be sure to join us each weekday for The Best of You Every Day, a brief daily reflection to help you start your mornings with a steady dose of wisdom. Remember, as you become the best of who you are, you honor God, you heal others, and you stay true to your God-given self.